Cheers. Cheers. Okay, dude, I'm just going to show you guys my leaves since we're on the subject. So,
oh, good.
There we are.
Hey, guys. Did you see Adrish's shirt?
Hey.
Adrish, show me your shirt again.
What's up?
Look at his shirt.
It's a Varietal Beer shirt.
I can't see anybody else, just you guys.
Oh, that's too bad. Because we've got Varietal clothing representing from New Jersey.
So
cool.
We are on my little Mac laptop. I have been Zooming on my big desktop indoors all day, so I thought it would be nice to.
That's a great spot.
Running a candy line all day.
Perfect.
There.
More beer to be had. I need to get more beer from you. Hey, Micah. Okay, so while we're waiting for everybody else, last week, for those of you who missed it, we did ampelography, which is grapevine identification. So, and Andy talked about a lot of different things at very rapid speed. And so I went and I picked some leaves so we can talk about things. So if this is your grape leaf, now this is a Cabernet leaf. So it's got all of the lobes. These are the lobes that Andy was talking about. This is the petiole, the stem of the leaf. This is the blade of the leaf. And then this is the petiolar sinus. And so one of the ways that you tell Cab Merlot and Cab Franc apart is the petiolar sinus is different and the lobing is different. So Cabernet, oh, there we go. If you hold it up with the white behind you. Cabernet is kind of open here at the top. It's more like this. And then it's all loby. Whereas Merlot is not as loby. The circles aren't as big. They don't close quite as much. And it's a little bit more of it's not quite as open here. And then Franc is even less loby. And this half of the leaf is better. But it's even less loby and it's more of a V shape in here. So these three are the three that get confused all the time. And for contrast, so super different, that's Riesling. Riesling's really easy to tell.
Not lobed.
Not lobed. Actually,
don't talk about the teeth.
The Riesling's also red. The petioles and the stems are actually red. So, and then the teeth are, let me see, I'm not used to doing this. Let me grab this one. When he was talking about the teeth are these parts, these jagged, edgy parts of the leaf. And there's different, like this is more jaggedy than the Merlot leaf is not as jaggedy. It's not quite as pronounced in its edges. I'll have to take a picture of this on paper and it might make more sense. And if you guys want to go back and watch Andy again, it'll make more sense. So now that we've got Dad, which is an important part of this whole game, and Harv's here too, and June and Paul, nice to see all you guys. Paul, what vintage are you drinking?
The one we're supposed to be drinking.
Chardonnay?
No, the train station.
Oh, originally it was going to be train station because we couldn't go to the train station. But now Yakima County's in phase 1.5, so you can come to the train station and we can taste outside and do all that kind of jazz. And Roger sent the recipe for the chicken, and I looked at that and I'm like, that is a Chardonnay dish, because one of these blocks of Chardonnay has so much pineapple in it, and with the pineapple in the recipes, we figured that was a better pairing. But they both work, as does the beer, as does Co's wine. So this week I feel like I should introduce everybody first, because this week, Saturday, was supposed to be our 4th annual, actually, progressive dinner. And I guess, maybe 3rd. But we didn't think we were going to be able to do it. Since we went to 1.5 last week, Roger is hosting the progressive dinner, but we wanted to bring Sunnyside to you guys. So with us, we have Roger Hazard, our chef from Vino's Bistro, who does all the food at this magical circus that we run every summer. It starts at a Varietal Beer Company with Chris and Melissa, who are sitting outside, and then goes to, usually goes to Dinn, Cellars.
So appetizers at Chris and Melissa's,
First course at Chris and Melissa's.
then
We do
fish course.
next course, like a fish course, usually at Coe's, and then they come to Coe Bonneville, and we do a meat course, and then we do a cheese course with Daniel, who was here 2 weeks ago with the Bonneville cheese. And then it goes to Sunnyside Inn, and Christy makes dessert, and usually there's a dessert beer, and it's really fun. So this year it's going to all be at the bistro and the bakery. So it's not progressive, but we're still doing the dinner.
And it's outside, right?
And it's outside.
Yeah.
And it's going to be awesome. And we have to say extra special thanks to Roger, because setting all this up this week, I'm sure, is a huge job. So thanks for taking time out of your day to join us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm curious. Can I ask Roger a quick question?
Uh-huh.
Sure.
Is it gonna be tented, or how are
Yeah,
you?
yeah. We have some shaded tents that are shade sails that we're putting up tomorrow.
Nice.
So yeah, it'll be really nice. Really
Sweet.
nice. Yeah.
That
Makes
sounds
sense.
great.
Lot
And
of
there's
work,
still
but
some tickets left if you guys from Seattle want to come over and hang out and party with us outside.
yeah,
So-
I think we're at 18 right now. 18 tickets sold. So we probably have 14 left.
Yep.
So,
So
yeah.
Space for 14 more. Okay.
Yep. So anybody who wants to come. The tickets, for the record, while we're on this topic, if you do want to come, because Ed, I'm going to see you there, Ed and Sue. I mean, I don't know if you have plans this weekend, but I have plans for you. They're at the Vino's website if
Yep.
you guys want to come. For those of you who probably aren't going to hop on a plane or cross the border, as much as we'd love to see you, this is why we brought them to happy hour. So before we get into who everybody is, what everybody does, we're going to talk about what's going on in the vineyard. So I will unmute Dad. Whoops. I unmuted and then remuted him. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. So you got some visual aids for me?
I do. What do you want first?
Start with the Syrah. We've been tracking that first
Okay.
all year. And so when Carrie and I walked through there this morning, the vines looked better than they did last week. We pointed out that there had been heat stress. We had that week of up to 98-degree temperatures. And because we had a dry winter, the vines that were vulnerable manifest the fact that they were weaker. And so we changed the irrigation system to give these particular vines extra water. If you look underneath the vine at the lower left, you can see the brown spot where this had been irrigated yesterday. And then you can also see the clusters that we have been tracking the development of from the time that the set started. And then Carrie, with her camera, is able to point to the tip of the shoots. If you look at the ones up highest, up closer, you'll see that they're beginning to push a little bit of new growth. They don't have long tendrils. They don't have a lot of leaf development. But the fact that they are positively beginning to grow a little bit at the end tells me that vine is getting the amount of water that we want at this stage. We're not trying to grow long shoots, but we want to have that tip just showing a little bit of positive energy as opposed to being burned back and struggling to get enough water while the the fruit development is taking a huge amount of water out of the vine at the same time. And so the balance of, we don't want the berries too big, as Carrie has repeatedly emphasized, but nevertheless, they are pulling nutrients and water as a sink. And so to make sure that we have the balance, we look at the tip of the shoot and it says, yes, that extra modification of the irrigation system is doing what we had hoped. So then if you want to go to the cab.
Okay.
Again, we don't have an abundance of canopy development because we don't want that for a variety of reasons. If you look in the lower portion, you'll see the cluster development. The berry shape is different than in Syrah. It's rounder, where the Syrah is more oval, and the clusters are not as long, but they're a little bit longer this year, a little bit to the left of where you're focused right now, Carrie. You can see, see just coming into view, those clusters are a little bit longer. So as we've reiterated week after week, this is a good year for the Cabernet. And if you look at the tip of the shoots, you'll see that we've got just that little bit of push that we like to see. Up there, you can see a little bit longer tendril there. In fact, these vines typically get irrigated once a week, but last week, with the development of the berries pulling so much, we had to give them an extra round of irrigation. That was the only lot that had to get a little bit more than we've been doing, and it's responded well. So the vineyard's rocking. We're staying on top of it. The vines are healthy. When you come and look at it, you can tell. Carrie had a guest yesterday, and the guy said, everything looks like it's just growing beautifully. So
and in
that's
this
what
picture,
we strive for.
And in this picture, you can see how loby the Cabernet is, and you can see all these lobes. So again, it looks like now you'll be able to tell the difference between the Cab and the Syrah, and you won't even need us to tell you, because you're going to all be grapevine experts.
So this is a pretty nice thing from this.
So we'll go back to the Syrah, so we know what that looks like. And let me zoom in. Hold on. So Syrah has kind of three shaped leaf. You've got
Okay,
one,
go ahead.
2, 3, and they're bigger and they're not as loby, and the teeth aren't as jaggy, and so that's what. But all the leaves are different, so you kind of got to take a look at the whole plant and say, what is it? You know, where are your good leaves? What's the representative of the plant? But that's a pretty good one. Mm-hmm. Like that. That's kind of what it looks like. So.
Okay.
Right.
One question I did see. I have a different screen than everybody else, but I saw a question come across the top about the red label cab. And so addressing that particular section of the vineyard that has berries that taste different has had a whole lot of attention paid to it. When we changed the whole irrigation system for the vineyard 3 years ago, we've had macro changes, and now we're getting back to being micro. And with last year, we had a wet winter, which precluded the development of the intensity because those vines have to struggle from the get-go, and they never really did. And Marshall Edwards had alluded to that when he was doing his presentation 6 weeks ago or so. But this year, with the dry winter and us, those vines that are the source to the red label have been throttled back irrigation-wise significantly, and we're hoping that they're going to do the job. And like Kathy said, with the 06 from the beginning, when the wine pops, when we taste it, then we know. So.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
All righty. So.
You got to mute me.
I will mute you. Don't worry. You're done. You're cut off. So. Melissa, I hope you're laughing at this, because
I am.
Good. So Dad didn't understand how to mute himself at the beginning, so we have to help him out.
for.
So on to our progressive dinner progression. The first place we normally go is the brewery. So we have Chris and Melissa to tell us about Varietal and tell us your story.
Can you hear me?
Yep. If you get a little closer.
Yeah.
Varietal is a dream project of myself and 4 other guys. We're in our 3rd year right now. We're a 10-barrel brewery, 10-barrel brew house, right in the downtown heart of Sunnyside. And we've been expanding every year. And we're making real hop-forward beers mostly. Also some lagers, and we are real into fruited sours also.
So a brewery in the heart of hop country.
That's what we do. And fruit country.
And fruit country.
And wine country.
And wine country.
So, yeah, as far as what we're bringing to I can't remember exactly. Roger texted me with a shot of the Tula Cup. The other day. Said it was real good, which I was glad to hear. I can't remember if this is on the menu, Roger, or not.
So
Yeah.
I think it's cool that because Yakima grows, like to your point, if it's a brewery in the heart of hop country, we grow 25 to 30% of the world's hops in the Yakima Valley, and yet
More than that.
It's
Like 75%.
Yeah.
Of the world's
that's
hops.
the U.S.
Yeah.
No, Yakima.
So we're
Yeah.
75% of domestic production. Oregon and Idaho are the other 2 hop growing states.
Oh.
But yeah, we're
But
75%.
yeah, but we don't have all the breweries, so now
Absolutely.
Varietal is the second one in Sunnyside and starting a movement. So hopefully there'll be more breweries up and down the Yakima Valley, but Varietal will still be our favorite and still be the best.
It's your hometown brewery anyway.
Yeah.
Tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about your building, Melissa, because I know you're in a historic building also.
Yeah, so Chris and his partners worked with Sunnyside is lucky enough to have a port district, and the guys worked with the Port of Sunnyside, and they basically rehabilitated what is a historic building for Sunnyside. It's been pretty cool because since the beginning, people have come in, and there are people that have stories about they remember going to what is now our building, but going with their mother to buy coal, like for their coal power,
And like chickens. And
yeah. So
it was a farm and feed.
yeah,
store.
farm and feed, and then it was the Funny Farm. I think its last life, it was the Funny Farm.
It was a liquor store.
Right. It was a liquor and beer store. So it seems to have had quite a few lives, and then the port came in and really took it down to the studs, and rebuilt the entire, built it to basically the brewery specifications that were designed for Varietal, and it's just a really cool space. It's ended up being a community center of sorts, right? Yeah, but we enjoy it. We think everybody else does.
Yeah, we're currently just doing curbside pickup for the time being of our cans, which has been a fun project since the pandemic, COVID-19 thing. We had planned to get into package this year to cans, but that got accelerated, that schedule, by like 7-8 months, and now we're on our 4th or 5th canning run and having a good time with it. I just canned beer today. That's where I've jetted home from, so we have new cans.
What did you can today?
New beers, Starboard Pale, This is a new.
Starboard's back? Yes.
Starboard's back. I can't ever tell which way to move. It's opposite here, but Starboard was the first beer we brewed on our system when we got it back in 2018, and this is the first time we've had a chance to put it in cans, so it's tasting really good. Excited for that.
Cool.
All right, so we have a couple questions about what kind of beer you make. So talk to us about the kind of beers that you make. And specifically, Paul says, do you make a malty beer with a restraint of hops? Or is that blasphemy?
I mean, if he wants to buy all
Good
of
question.
that,
Good question.
we do a lot of hop forward beers. For one, we're in the heart of hop country. A lot of our ownership is involved in the hop industry intimately. Melissa obviously works for Hop Growers of America and Washington Hop Growers. I don't know if I said I guess USA Hops. And so we have a deep abiding love for that plant and its products. Then we also really enjoy making lagers, or at least I do. Those are the beers I tend to drink. As far as malt forward beers,
You've done some.
well, the one that Melissa's drinking right now is it's called Tulakop. It's a Norwegian farmhouse. It's pretty restrained as far as hops, and it uses all Northwest grown and craft malted barley.
Talk about the barley that we're growing with Newhouse.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
So this beer that Melissa's drinking, I can't remember the percentages, but a lot of it was grown in and around Spokane, and then the other portion was grown down in Madras, Oregon, and both malted in craft malt houses down there, independent little guys. And so they're able to do some really cool stuff, small batch. And so this beer has very little hops in it, and mostly the expression is coming from the yeast, which is a kvik. They call it kvik, which comes from the Scandinavian countries. It's enjoying like a pretty popular, I don't know if resurgence is the right word, but explosion, because depending on how you use the yeast, you can ferment it cool and, achieve a totally different beer than if you ferment it warm, which is not unusual for yeast, right? Like they'll do different things at different temperatures, but it has such a clean range, like it ferments clean in all of those temperature ranges, so you can really create a lot of different beers that are really tasty. And so that's we've never played with this yeast before this shutdown, and have been really, really having a good time with it. So as far as malt forward beers, that is what we've got out right now. Like I say, we tend to focus on hops. Again, we focus a lot on fruit too. We have Lower Valley grown blueberry sour beer that we're getting ready to make later in about a week. We have a raspberry beer that will be out later this year, and then we always do a wine grape beer. And Carrie and I were supposed to brew some beer, but plans kind of got screwed up. I was looking at my notes the other day, and I can't make heads or tails of my notes. So.
Well, we were gonna brew a Riesling inspired beer this weekend, and then in the fall we were going to brew a fruit beer with the Riesling.
Yes, we'll do that for sure.
Yeah.
And we've done that with last year we did a Syrah grape sour beer with a buddy of mine's grapes from up the hill, and
Wonderful.
So good. It's amazing. It makes me just want to just do wine grape beers. So,
which is a very popular thing right now.
Yeah.
Very hot.
Wow.
So
more
hot.
so in it's still hot right now.
So
more so in Europe, but it's moving this. It's really catching on in the States.
Now, your beers are only available in Sunnyside?
No, we distribute to Seattle and Portland, and we're in Spokane. Pretty much Oregon and Washington. So I've seen our beers all the way down in Bend. But yes, just Oregon and Washington currently.
Cool.
Well, June wants
Yes,
to know
we do.
what's the beer you're most famous for, and I would say Twine. So if you go to the brewery, they have a big board 1 through 18, and Starboard is number 5, and I like number 5 because for some reason, I don't know, whatever it is, beer number 5 is always a good one. But number 1 and 2 never change. 1 is Casita Lager, and 2 is Twine Climber, and so those are probably Dad likes 2.
Twine
but
Climbers, we make more of that than anything.
Yeah.
So it's like a house lager and a house IPA. They're definitely the 2 most popular beers.
Yeah.
And the Mexican style lager.
But when you when you go to the brewery, Tony, when the border's open and you can go into the brewery, order number 5. And Tony says number 5 for the song Mambo Number 5. You might there's your name of your next beer.
Mambo number. Oh, actually, that would be.
We should do a mango beer and call it Mango.
Mango number 5. That's a great idea.
I love how beer is so much more creative in that way than wine is. Super fun.
You can probably get away with a lot more.
Yeah.
A lot more silliness. We don't have to be as distinguished.
I was talking to another winemaker yesterday, actually, and we were talking about a number of things, but she made the point of, especially Washington winemakers, their lots of fruit are so small. You don't get a lot of chance to like do a lot of experimentation. It's like, it better work. So like once you figure it out, like you kind of like stick to it. And that's not a bad thing. It's really worked out. But you know, in beer, we have the chance to just like brew all year round, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, you can have a finished product with beer, obviously.
and where our turnaround time's a little faster.
Yeah, much faster than a wine.
Yeah, as we're drinking 2017
Good wine. A good wine.
And yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
So
Roger, do you have a recipe that you're going to pair this with at the Progressive dinner?
Yeah, so we're going to do a pierogi with a bratwurst. So we're going to stuff that with a potato and caramelized onion. And I think it'll be bomb.
And which beer? Which beer?
So we were going to do the Pale Ale and the IPA.
Okay, cool. That's going to be good.
Yeah, I think it'll be great.
Starboard? Which pale ale? Do you remember? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it was Starboard. Yep.
do Starboard. That'll make me happy.
Starboard. That's what it's going to
Yeah.
be.
It's fresh.
So, all right. Well, we'll come back to you guys with more questions in a bit, but we're going to step on to course number 2. And tell us about, I know you've been to a bunch of these things, and I know some of the people on the call, but tell us who you are, what you're doing, why Sunnyside. Tell us about your giant lots of wine.
It'd take forever.
Oh wait, I gotta unmute you. Or unmute yourself.
There you go.
Hey, Hugh, I feel your pain. So before I get started, what I'll do is I want to reiterate what about Varietal and how I feel about what they've done. I'm really impressed with what the crew over there has done, and the highest compliment I get, I think, is when people come in and say, you know, I like all your wines. I go to these other places. I might like 1 or 2, but I like all of yours. Well, I feel the same way about Varietal's beers. I go in there and I have one and I like it. I really like it, and then I have another and I really like it. So they're really passionate about what they do, and the beers show it. They're passionate, but they're also really good, and they get the best ingredients, of course, because they're here when hops are at their peak, and they have inside tracked all the best hops. So we really have But I mean, they're doing a bang up job over there. I'm really excited about that. So that's my entree. So on to me. I also am I'm here, and many of you have been here. I mean, of all the people I see on my screen right now, I'd say 99.8 have been my winery as well. But for those of you who haven't been, I've been living and working in the Sunnyside area since 1996. I came up here to work at Cellars, but that's ancient history. They've gone on to other things, and I left there about 8 years ago and started my own winery, focusing on vineyard designated wines from the Yakima Valley. So I do classically styled wines, Bordeaux, Rhone varietals, and Chardonnay, and I work with about 4 different vineyards here in the Yakima Valley, ranging from up near Yakima all the way down to near Red Mountain. So it's a wonderful place to get a great variety and diversity of vineyards and wines. And I've been sticking with 4 vineyards I really like a lot. I'm working with Elephant Mountain Vineyards, Painted Hills Vineyards, Ross Camp, and Lonesome Spring Ranch. And so for the dinner, we're going to be pouring a 2016 Lonesome Spring Ranch GSM, Grenache Syrah Mourvedre, which is a traditional Southern Rhone style Grenache based blend. And this one's just sent it out for review this year. It came back with a 94 points. So I think if you don't like it, it's not because it ain't a good wine. So it's really nice, beautifully styled, about 40% Grenache, the remainder Syrah with a little Mourvedre, about 25% Mourvedre in it as well. So Roger, what are you cooking up for the GSM?
So the GSM, we're gonna do the chicken boil.
Oh, okay.
Southern chicken boil. So
the GSM is not heavy. It's really, you get this really bright cherry character from the Grenache. The Syrah gives it body and structure, and the Mourvedre brings a spicy character to the wine. So, and it's I'm sorry.
We're gonna let up on the spice a little bit. So.
Okay.
So it should blend in really well.
Yeah. It's aged in 2-year and older barrels, so it's not very oaky. It's definitely, you get the character of the grapes in this wine, which is classic for that style. And oftentimes it'll be aged in a giant oak barrel that's 50 years old. So oak is not a primary component of this type of wine, but and it tends to be medium bodied as opposed to heavy, and but it'll have a little tannin. So it's a beautiful wine. It always seems to be just the ticket for this dinner and the wine and the foods that Roger is making for the progressive dinner. So I'm really looking forward to it.
I think it's a great summer red because, like you said, it's not as heavy, and it's got great freshness, and it's really a nice summer red wine.
Yeah.
And so you also have a cool building.
Yeah. So the building I'm in was built in 1930. It's actually an old brick. It's the old Sunnyside City Water Department building, and it's the site of the original water wells for the city. And it's just the coolest old building. And it was funny, when I moved here in 96, it was all boarded up. And I used to drive by it all the time and look at it and go, oh, that's a cool old building. I wonder what they're going to do with it. And, it just sat there. And then when I started my winery, I needed a building and a place. And my attorney, Steve Winfrey, who's been here in Sunnyside forever, a great guy, said, I was chatting with him, and he said, oh, you should talk to the port. And the port department, the Port of Sunnyside, got together with me, and we came and we looked at several buildings in town, but this one came up and it was boarded up. We opened the door up and went inside, and it was cobwebs, but it's just the coolest old place. The walls are 14 inches thick, brick. There's a crane in the over the tasting room bar. It's also attached to what was later built in 1950, which is the city maintenance shop. So that's where the winery is. The tasting room's in the old the water department building, and it's a fantastic place to visit. It's cool, dark, kind of creepy in here. Not really, but it's a lot of fun. People love coming in here. I get a lot of people who grew up around this area and want to come in and tell me stories about their family members who worked here, or so a woman came in, she was about 50. She said, yeah, I grew up about 2 doors down and they used to let me come in and play. And when this place was working, it was a 1930 building with exposed motors and wires and dirt and, metal shards. And, I was just thinking, oh, and you survived. That's great. So now it's all remodeled, and it's we've got modern bathrooms and hand sanitizer and everything like that. So when you come, we'll be looking forward to seeing you. And I have multiple vintages of wonderful Yakima Valley wines here. So.
And Paul wants to know, what are your plans for reopening?
So now we're at phase 1.5. We have a couple of we have big umbrellas and tables outside. We're going to start with that, and as we move on to phase 2, we're going to work on getting cross ventilation in here. It's really set up for that. We have doors on either end, so we'll be able to prop open the doors and get a nice breeze through here, and keep people socially distant and adhere to everything, and make it so that when you're ready to come out, you can, and it'll be safe.
Yeah. So now we are going to start out by appointment. Are you doing by appointment now? Or are you having days? What's your plan, Phil?
So beginning on Saturday, I'll be able to have appointments. I'm getting all everything organized and making sure I meet all the requirements for the reopening. But as of Saturday, I'll be able to open up and tasting outside. And then by the time we get to phase 1, 2.0, I'll be set up on the inside as well.
All right. And Chris, are you guys opening up outside? You've got a great outdoor space as well.
No.
No.
Because of food?
Currently, no.
We have a number of issues, but just like things that we need to work through. We're not set up yet, though, at all for it.
It's being discussed. We're
talking about it. Well, we'll probably wait for phase 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's too bad, because I don't drink as much beer if I have to call ahead of time or go online ahead of time and do curbside. That is. So I hope you guys get open soon.
Yeah, we really want to be set up for, keeping everybody super safe, and the brewery and it being summer could potentially just be a very, we're trying to be responsible and safe.
We do want to bring back food service, so that people
I'm in.
Pick up. But, yeah, no, we would love it. But that would our outdoor area is not that big once you start like spacing stuff out. All of the tables out 6 feet apart. Anyways, that's all weeds. But
it's in the works.
We're talking about it.
I had a fun fact that I don't know if it's a piece of gossip or a piece of history at this point, but since we just had co-talking, something fun I wanted to mention was that Christopher here married Co and Sharon in the brewery this year.
Yeah.
We were the first wedding there, the first. And Chris is actually a minister, so he did the ceremony. But thanks again, Chris.
Yeah.
Is it working out?
Yeah, are you guys still married? Oh, perfect. So it's the brewery / Love Chapel, FYI.
You have to understand, we were together for 33 years before we finally found a minister qualified to marry us.
What? I cried for days because I wasn't there.
We were planning a party, but then the freaking virus hit, and that was the end of that.
Okay, I'm gonna hold you to that, though. I'm gonna hold you to that.
We'll do it.
You have a year to you know, before my grandmother will be upset that
So Roger, you're building, I don't know if it's pretty historical, but what can you tell us about your spot?
So I guess I like I'm so proud to be part of Bonneville and Dinn and Varietal and just what we bring to the community. It's so, huh? Yeah, I know, but I mean, it's just important, and it feels good that I'm part of all you guys. You know what I mean? We've been in business for 13 years. I've catered for 25 years.
You've done more than one wedding?
And say that again.
I said you've done more than one wedding?
More than one. Yes. I was gonna tally who were divorced and who were still married. But yeah, so it feels good to be part of this community and what we bring to the community, and with this whole coronavirus of trying to be safe and trying to keep everybody comfortable with what's going on, especially with our progressive dinner. It's very important to me in the Valley, and to keep the restaurant going, that everything goes smooth. And
so the reopening plans, you're gonna put sales up, you've got a tent, we're gonna put the tables outside, right?
Correct. Yeah, and so we have some lighting, and so the cells will be put up tomorrow, and we have a few people that came by today that we have an awning underneath the restaurant. We don't get too many tables, underneath the awning, but once we get those cells up and stuff like that, we should be good to go.
Cool. And actually, we should point out that Shelley Durfee is coming to the dinner as well. She is they're a 4th generation cherry farm. They grow cherries, pears. What am I forgetting? More than that. They grow a bunch of stuff. They do a lot of things.
No hops anymore.
No hops anymore. But it's to the point you guys have been making about how we grow stuff here, and the community all pulls together and works together. Shelley's going to talk about growing. Did she grow the cherries that are going into the dinner, or she's just going to talk about into the dessert?
No, I don't believe so. No, she's just going to talk about the cherries. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
we like to just grow everything here and then take it to the next level. Or it's not fresh enough, we don't order out much.
Yeah, I mean, I think in all of these things, one of the things that we've all really been focused on is we grow so many hops, we grow so many wine grapes, we grow so much food, but we then ship all of these raw materials out to so many other places, and so we grow all the food that goes all over
the world, really.
all over the world. And it's really neat to be part of this community that's keeping some of these things in Sunnyside and in the area. So when you guys come visit, you can eat locally and drink locally and enjoy the bounty of the Yakima Valley, because it's really, really pretty cool. So, Roger, is your first day open going to be Saturday? Or are you open already?
No, we're open already. We open Tuesday through Saturday right now, from 7 to 3. So yeah,
cool.
We're just gonna see how this goes. We've closed on Sundays. We've closed on Mondays just because of we haven't had as many customers during those 2 days. So we kind to We try to do a lot of stuff on Sundays and Mondays just to recoup and evaluate what we're going to do for the next week. And so.
And what are some of your top more popular entrees? What are you known for?
So we do a lot of pastas. We do a lot of panini sandwiches. We do a lot of salads. So we try to come up with a theme for the week. So we've been trying to do that too. So we've been trying to do takeouts, and those can be picked up by 5 o'clock, and trying to serve those through the drive-through at lunchtime too. Now that we're 1.5, we're trying to serve those outside. So, I mean, it's just really confusing right now of what's going on and trying to keep people happy and what's going to happen. Are they going to show up? Are they not going to show up? And so it's really a stressful time right now. Really it is.
Yeah, for those of you guys who don't know how this whole thing opened up, basically they said on Thursday, we're thinking about opening up, and on Friday they said you're opening up.
Or you can open up.
You can open up. And so the speed at which we've been trying to figure out what are the rules, what's okay, what's not, how do we do it, how do we, all these, to Roger's point, will people come or not, which when you're buying food that doesn't keep as long as something like wine, it's been a great crazy roller coaster. So
and is it gonna last a week? Is it gonna last a month? Is it gonna last 3 months? How much money do we spend outside to make it comfortable for everybody? And it's just, it's a really tough situation right now.
And that's why we do what we do.
Cheers to that.
That's exactly right. Cheers on that.
And on that note, we should
Gotta keep a smile. Gotta keep a smile.
And you always have a smile, Roger.
Yep.
And so, and another thing too is we're focusing on our menu items. Our down to basic menu items. A lot of people think that we're just doing to-go dinners or to-go lunches, but we still have our menu items that we want to go through the drive-through or have the people sit outside and eat. So that's one of the biggest things that we want to push right now. So
yeah. And those of you guys who don't live here, since most of you don't live here and you can't come down for lunch tomorrow, thank you for supporting your local small businesses, because to Ed's point that King County was similar. This is a challenging time for everybody personally, but for small businesses, it's tough, and we all appreciate your support. So support your local restaurants, support all of small businesses. If you want to see them after COVID, now's the time to support them, because that's what's helping get all of us in the situation through. So whether it's takeout or gift cards or going to visit when you can, we all really appreciate it. Because especially when you haven't been open as long, like Varietal, and it's the newer places that don't necessarily have all of the years of following in history are probably hurting. They're a little more nervous than some people who have backups, but restaurants are tough, and everybody has their own challenges, and we all really appreciate the support. So
yep.
So what else do we? Elise says we have a bunch of newlyweds on the site. Co, you are included in this newlyweds. Do we have any other newlyweds?
We have Gus and
I know.
We have Gus and Cindy. We have Co, who gets counted because this is your party today.
Married, Gus and Cindy?
Yeah, last weekend.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
10 whole days. Are you still married?
Hey.
You're so rash.
Co gets asked all the time. You guys are still married, right?
Carrie, are you going to lead us in a cheers of all of our newlyweds?
Okay, our newlyweds. I want to say cheers. We'll do this in chronological order. Am I going to miss anybody? No. So cheers to Co and Sharon and Gus and Cindy. And I don't think we have any other within the year married people. So we will have a party for you in real life as soon as we can. Cheers.
Cheers.
Congrats, you guys. Congrats.
And then, what's the other thing? I was going to ask another question. What was it?
Well, make a plug for Chris. So Varietal does a great job. So and he did-
It was less hoops than what Gus had it and Cindy had to jump through. I'll tell you that right now.
For the cost of a pint of beer, you too can be married at the Love Chapel.
Yeah, I'll charge.
Oh, Mike has said the love toast. I don't know the love toast. I'll have to download it.
You should do a drive-up window for like Saturday chapel or something. Wedding chapel.
All right. I don't know if you guys saw Micah's advice to the newlyweds. Congratulations. Marriage is a relationship in which one person is always right and the other is the husband.
Oh, nice.
There are scholars among us. Scholars among us.
So excellent. Well, we hope to see you guys here soon. We love to seeing you every week although I do have one question. I know what I was going to ask. Kevin, why are you drinking out of a Corbin? You're supposed to open that bottle. Oh,
Wait a minute.
hold on. Let me make sure we can hear you. Unmute yourself.
There, I'm unmuted. This is actually the second time we've got into the bottle, but we have to drive 70 miles to get outside of Minneapolis tonight. So we decided we shouldn't drink too awful much. We stayed at the lake.
Oh, well,
okay.
that's. I guess
reasonable.
we can't blame you for being responsible.
That's the sun that you see on my face right now. The sun has finally come out. So it's very bright coming across the lake here in central Minnesota.
Oh, nice.
Cool. Beautiful.
Well,
Harv, that bridge is always pretty misty.
oh, yeah, he stepped away.
He
We're gonna
stepped
have
away.
to get. Oh yeah, Kevin, did you know that Scott and Robin are also they're in Minnesota? They're in the Grand Rapids area.
No, I did not.
Yeah.
I did not.
So if you're driving past that way, stop in, say hi. You guys can
No,
check them out.
it's just up the road. Actually, it's up the road quite a ways, but it is up the road.
They're by
Watch out for the tornadoes tonight. I don't know exactly you are, but there's tornadoes down there.
Yeah, and you didn't get rain this morning. We had over 2 inches in 45 minutes. So.
Oh gosh.
I love the desert.
We had 80 degrees and sunny again.
Again, and blue skies. Again.
We had 80, but it wasn't dry. It was the humidity.
Yeah.
It's been sticky.
Yeah, Harv, you got to update your background next time because we want to see sunshine in your background, not that Bay Bridge. Do something like Micah, where
you don't like the city of love.
we don't need the city of love. We have the capital of love.
I mean, I'm listening to Chris's Love Chapel. I mean, San Francisco's not bad. Doesn't quite have the beer that you have.
That's right.
I'll update it. You know what I need to do? I'll put one of those Cabernet leaves in the background.
There you go. I'll send you a picture.
Send me a picture. I'll drink to that.
Strategically.
And by the way, I loved the little self-advertisement about supporting all the local businesses. I guess I'll have to buy some more Red Label.
Yes,
yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Please do.
It's just gone. It's like it's evaporated. I laid down 6 of those bottles and it's gone.
But you had the big ones too.
Oh, they aren't that big actually. Actually, they're just delicious. We had some friends over, and I think we had some fun with 2 of them. So it was a good night.
Yeah, that's good.
Everybody got home safely.
That's important.
Yep.
You're gonna probably have to invite Dan for those 2. I think he likes those pretty well.
Oh yeah, I figured. I mean, as soon as I got the 6, I go, this is prized. This is a prize bounty.
Yeah. So the red label, because Ed apparently doesn't know about the red label, we have so on the hillside Cabernet, and I don't have the picture up, otherwise I'd show you where they are. The short rows over on the east end, which were the rows that Adrish got to pick when he was here for harvest.
Well, Dad talked about them tonight.
And Dad talked about them earlier. They we get about a ton of fruit off of that. And when we're tasting through all the lots blind to make the blending's pretty simple usually, because the hillside fruit goes into coat, the fruit from the lower planting goes into the carriage house, but we always taste everything ahead of time and make sure. And there's always, actually I'll tell the whole story because one person's always right and the other one's the husband. So, and this is a great story that proves this.
Yes, it proves the hypothesis.
Go ahead, you tell it.
Wasn't Kathy's palate involved with this?
Because the first Cabernet.
Yeah, and in 2006, when we were doing our blind tasting, that lot just popped. Co, you were at that tasting. I just loved it. So we thought we should keep that separate and not blend it because we wanted to make a standalone Cabernet. And we'd see what was going to happen. And all the previous tastings, and they were all blind, it continued to show itself as distinctive. So we were going to make a Cabernet out of that lot. And Hugh thought that was a really bad idea because that's not what we do. And I said, well, it isn't what we do, but we can do it. So let's just do it this way. And so we were at the day of bottling, and he was still trying to blend it away. And I said no. And so it was kind of an interesting day, to say the least, because he wanted to blend that wine, and I said no, I want to make this wine. So we made it, and then it was pretty cool because I had some customers who'd been on the happy hour, they're not here tonight, came into the winery, and I got a phone call as I was walking in the winery with them, and I got a call from a friend of mine who said, congratulations. And I said, on what? And they said, you just got 96 points, the highest rating on a Cabernet Sauvignon from Washington State.
The highest red wine to ever come out of the state of Washington
at that time. Yeah, so that was pretty exciting. So I was vindicated. We get to make it whenever I feel, or the team here feels that.
This team.
Yeah, this team. when we feel we have what it takes to make that wine, we make it. If we don't, if it doesn't muster up, then we don't make it.
Yeah, so, and it's got to have a wow factor.
Yeah.
So Hugh doesn't think that the vines were stressed enough, huh? Or were they stressed
enough? Last year.
No. But
last year they weren't. We actually, so we made it in 6, we made it in 8, we made it again in 12, and then we made it, and we have a couple of those big bottles left, but not many. Most of them are the 750s, which for you is going to be a little small. Maybe for the rest of you, it's a better size. But
well, you can have an individual bottle. And in COVID, that might not be a bad thing. You just put a straw in it.
Oh yeah, you're not supposed to share.
That's right. One straw.
Yeah.
So,
one straw. Well, I guess I better save the remaining 2 bottles, huh? Didn't you tell me, Carrie, that I should drink one and lay the rest of them down for like
5 minutes?
You know,
yeah, that's not.
Yeah, that's about what happened.
That works. So
it is delicious.
So yeah, but we have not made that since 2013.
Yeah, we made it 13.
We made it in 6, 8, 12, 13, and we haven't made it since. And so it's got to be, if it's not special enough, we're not going to do it. So,
and we don't really advertise it, so it's just kind of one of those you have to sort of know about it.
Yeah, you have to be hard, apparently.
Yeah.
But now you're in the know, so now
I was totally upsold.
Well, it has to have the wow factor, right, Kathy?
Absolutely.
I mean, when you taste it in a blind tasting, if like 2 or 3 people's notes say wow next to it, that all of a sudden we start saying, okay, this might be it, and then eventually that's really the definition. It's got to make you say wow when you taste it.
There was a year. 2 years ago, I think, there were 2 people that had wow in their tasting notes, and I said I don't think so. And I mean, I think it was good, but I don't think it's wow. I don't think it's red label good. And so we ended up not making it. So it's got to be. It's a pretty high bar. So it's a pretty special It's a pretty special bottling when we do it.
This year is pretty nice so far, though. I mean, this could be a potentially good year. The Cabernet looks beautiful, and the, like I said, it's the temperatures for the most part have been 80 and 40 at night, 47.
Can I ask a question?
Uh-huh.
So if stress comes late by a really hot end of summer, does that help or hurt? Stress comes early, it's better for the vintage, right?
Yes. Hold on, Dad. Let me unmute.
Stress late.
Early stress. If you stress your kids out when they're young, they have more resilience when they grow up. See, that's why I'm so strong, because my parents just.
Did you see Dulcie come into my picture?
Okay, so Dad, you can answer that question.
Okay, so Harv, it's not just the late stress. It has to be the whole season combined to create these berries. So the site itself has different flavors than the rest of the hillside cab because of what's going on in the terroir. But as I mentioned before, when we had a really wet winter in 2019, the berries got big, even though we didn't want them to, and we couldn't down stress them enough because there was too much moisture for months at a time. And so this year we had a dry winter. We're trying to run those particular vines on the edge to keep the berry size small, to keep the vines stressed. We've modified the irrigation a little bit more. And so it takes a whole growing season in order to get the stress, not just late.
And then Dan asked about GSM and having not seen a lot of GSMs from Washington. Now, the Yakima Valley grows over 40 different kinds of grapes. So there are more, there's more Grenache and Mourvedre being planted and more being varietally designated. But Cody, you want to talk a little bit about, because you have more experience with these than I do, obviously. You want to talk a little bit more about the grapes and how extensively planted they are? And
yeah, actually, that's a great question, Dan. It's Grenache has been grown here for many years, but Grenache is a real interesting grape in that it grows a really vigorous plant. Plant grows almost like a weed, and so it needs to be planted in a very stressed environment. So you need to have soils that you can dry out. Otherwise, it just turns into a big, it makes big fat berries that don't have much flavor. But when you plant it in a really, in a stressful environment, the berries shrink down. And so if you go to Spain or southern France or Australia or any place where Grenache does well, it's a place where it's growing in rocks or gravel, where it can be dried down and has to really struggle. And so in the beginning of the Washington wine, earlier in the Washington wine industry, when people didn't really figure this out, they might plant it here and there and everywhere. And what ends up happening is, since the vine is so vigorous, if you don't turn the water off, if you don't turn the water off early in the fall, the vine tends to keep growing, and then when the first frost hit, it damages the vine. So people were really worried that Grenache couldn't grow here because we had freeze damage on Grenache. And the only Grenache that did well was on the tops of the highest peaks where it stayed warm in the wintertime. Well, eventually people realized that Grenache, you just have, in order to grow it properly, you have to cut the water off soon enough at the end of the season so that the vine goes into dormancy and the green growing parts lignify, they turn woody and get hardened off for the wintertime. So that's only something that's really been acknowledged and figured out over the last probably 10 or 15 years. And we also don't plant it in places that are low. We plant it so up high on the hillside, you have the benefit from the fact that it's warmer up there. It doesn't get as cold. And typically the soils are more gravelly and poorer. So those two factors could both add up to making the Grenache a viable grape to grow in those areas. So now that we've got that figured out, we've been really fine-tuning what we can do with Grenache. So that's the Grenache part. Of course, Syrah, as we know, does beautifully here. And Mourvedre is an interesting grape in that it grows very large clusters that can be really tight, and they can it's very temperamental, and it ripens late, and it's just, and of course in France they've been growing it for 1,000 years, so they know what to do. And here we're finally, after 40 or so years, we're figuring out how to grow Mourvedre. But Mourvedre brings this real peppery character, which is really cool, and really it's the final piece of the GSM puzzle. So I mean, the GSM is a take. You might say it's a France via Australia, because it's a take on a Southern Rhone blend. And in the Southern Rhone, there may be 14 varieties or 20, and some of the minor varieties might be white. But the three primary varieties in that traditional Southern Rhone blend are Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvedre, in that order. And then the minor ones may be 3 or 4 or 2% or 1%, that kind of thing. Here, it doesn't make sense to plant all 20 varieties, because we just don't have there's not a place for it. But the three that really give the blend its character are the Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvedre. And we have them now planted in multiple locations. People know how to deal with them. We know how to make the wine, and we've made them and aged them. So it's a really exciting time for that Rhone blend here in Washington. And you'll find out, I don't personally use Viognier in my Rhone blends. Other people do. I think there's so many permutations. People are going to be working on this for the next 100 years trying to figure it out. So I'm really excited about it. And the vines do beautifully here, and it's for my winery, it's some people's favorite wine.
Yeah, that is a perfect segue, by the way, to next week, because Brad is who's leading the cruise to the Rhone, is going to next week take us on a armchair travel tour of the world, since most of us aren't traveling. As Kevin, you guys are going farther than most people have been traveling in the last couple months. So we're going to go see some of the cool places that Brad has gone, and in anticipation for going to the Rhone to drink all these different grapes in that space next week and next year. But can you ship to Chicago, Co?
What's that?
Can you ship to Chicago?
I believe I can, as a matter of fact.
All right, Dan, you should try his GSM, because it's really good.
It is good.
And it's a delicious wine. Check it out.
Yeah, and I have two really cool versions of it, the 15 and the 16. The 15 was a hot vintage, and the Mourvedre didn't do too well, so it's Syrah dominant, and the 16 is Grenache dominant. So, and they're completely different wines, but it makes for some really interesting vintage variation, all from within one vineyard. So, yeah, PM me or
link to Code and Cellars in the email with all the stuff. So, or feel free to email us and we can put you in touch with him. Anybody who wants those, or if you need more GSM in your life as well. So cool. Well, we are past our hour and we're starting to lose people. So do we have any more questions? Or should we let you go till next week? All right, we will see you all next week. Thank you for joining. Hopefully we'll see you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
And yay, Sunnyside.
Yep.
Yeah.
All
right. Bye.
All right, thanks guys.
Bye-bye.